Welcome to Earth, a love story. I'm your host, Robin Lassiter. This is a solo episode, and it's going to be quick and dirty because I'm getting ready to travel, but really wanted to get it out before I left. I'm not going to super edit it, so please forgive any incongruencies and forgive how fast I'm talking. Also, fun fact, this is episode number 37, and every time I hear that number, I think 37, like from Clerks. Remember? Anyone? If you got that, we're friends, trust me. So this week on the podcast, I want to talk about what I'm calling the Bridge Collective. And lately I've received a ton of downloads about this group of people, many of them experiencers and many of them who would not describe themselves that way. And these people are building a bridge from the old dead world and ways towards something new. This is just my own framework and reflections, so if it doesn't resonate, don't worry about it. And these ideas have crystallized through talking to close, trusted friends, as well as listening to my incredible clients and my guides. So thank you all. So I first heard about the idea of a bridge collective, although he didn't call it that, from Lee Harris. Lee Harris is an intuitive and channeler. I'm sure lots of you know him. Anyway, I think I heard him channeling the Z's one time many years ago and talking about how many of us are acting as bridges from the old thing to the new thing. And that really resonated then, but it was years ago and I didn't know exactly what to make of it or what to do with it. I just noted it and kind of tucked it away. And these days it feels like things are moving faster and faster. I'm sure you've noticed that. And of course, they have been for a while. And it feels like we're gaining more access as well to our multidimensional selves, whether we want to or not. And it's like the mind is having a hard time tracking everything. And the rational mind desperately wants to keep track of everything. But because things are happening on multiple levels and in multiple states of consciousness, it's super hard to do. And I want to say here loud and clear, I am not anti-rationality. I definitely tend to center the ineffable, the liminal, the weird, and the other because they've been relegated to the shadows for so long, and I think they need lifted up. But rationality is incredibly important. Our bodies and the material consensus reality world that they exist in are incredibly important. I think that's why we're here. Incarnate. I think that's why we're on the planet. And I'm also about adding more things in rather than cutting things out. So holding more space, more paradox, more complexity, more nuance, not less. I'm interested in the in-between spaces and in making that in-between space as big as possible while also stretching the solid, certain edges so that there's more and more space, more room for all the things. So this multiplicity that's been arriving for a while, I wonder if you've noticed that things like psychic abilities, shared dreams, downloads for lack of a better word, synchronicity, out-of-body experiences, strong, unexplained affinities, altered states of consciousness, like knowing who's going to text you right before they do, things like that, are on the rise. Because they are for me, and they're also on the rise for lots of other people I'm in contact with. Or maybe it's coming through like a fire hose of projects and directions and different focuses and lenses, and maybe it all comes through with an urgency, like it has to be done right now. I was really struggling with this for a few weeks, and I asked my teachers about it, and they agreed that it was something like receiving multiple directives, missives, projects all at once from the timeless, spaceless place, from the causal realm. My teachers didn't say that, that's just my personal association. And that all of these things are arriving into my poor, overtaxed, rational mind, all demanding attention and initiation and completion at the very same time. My teachers didn't say this either, but did hint that I was dealing with a kind of overwhelm and paralysis in the face of this. And this paralysis manifested for me as staring at my fucking phone too much. I spent fewer nights reading before bed and more nights falling asleep to some bullshit on my device. And, full acceptance and compassion around that, even though I'm saying fuck and bullshit. Because as far as I can tell, the fastest way out is through, and the first step to through is fully accepting where I am. With love, even. Leaning into it, turning towards it, not beating myself up about it, but getting curious. And that's what happened to me with this. I stopped feeling bad about it, and I got curious about why I was doing it, and I felt some feelings that I'd been numbing with it. And as I've said before, and I'll say again and again, no shade to dissociation and numbing. We have these coping strategies for a reason. And the fastest way out is through, and the fastest way to go is slow. And if all of that isn't held in a big, old, juicy ball of self-love, then none of this seems to work anyway. So acceptance and self-love as the ground floor while I was staring at my phone. And then this morning I woke up and I had some space and air around it and realized what I'd been doing, which I've kind of been coming out of this for the past couple weeks. But this morning it was very clear. I had a tiny moment of clarity. And because I have a history with addiction to all manner of things, I'm acutely aware that when the moment of clarity comes, it's a good idea to put as much momentum around it as possible, because who knows when it will come again. Also, this is, another tangent to my always and already tangential ramblings, but has anyone else noticed that turning off the Wi-Fi and putting your phone in airplane mode at night helps with subtle body access? When I do that, my dreams are much more vivid. I'm much more likely to get lucid during dreaming, and I find it's much easier to go out of body. And I'll do a whole thing on out-of-body experiences at some point. But for those of you who also have them, I wonder if you experience that it's easier to access that realm, along with all manner of other subtle body realms and experiences, if the fucking Wi-Fi is off. And I don't know the science around that. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my own anticipation, and something like a placebo effect happens when I turn it off. But either way, it does something, and it feels much cleaner, sort of, while I'm sleeping. Okay, digressions upon digressions. Back to the multidimensionality and the Bridge Collective. The Bridge Collective seems to be undergoing a time where it's really hard to sort out what is what and how to move forward. It's really hard for folks to make a plan, and it's really hard to make a policy. I used to make policies for everything. Like, starting tomorrow, I'm going to get up and meditate and exercise and have a healthy breakfast, and I'm not allowed to skip that ever. And from now on, I'm going to the gym 5 days a week, and I'm going to write for 7 hours a day, and I'm only going to eat cheese every other Thursday, and I'm not going to talk to men or think about sex. And from now on, I'm only going to use this very special notebook to document everything I'm doing so that it's all in one place and I'll never forget. And then someday, I'll be good enough to love myself, and then there will be a whole new set of policies. I did that for years, and I don't do that anymore. So I stopped being able to put those kind of plans and policies in place a while back, but now I'm finding it hard to future cast at all. It's as if I'm walking across a bridge and I don't know where it ends up, and I'm building it as I go. And it feels like there are some people watching me do that, and there are people who want to come with, and then there's a whole bunch of other people, if I kind of broaden my perceptions out to the side, that I notice, and we're all building this bridge together. Or there are lots of us building a bunch of different bridges with a bunch of different people. I don't know. But it's harder and harder to keep one foot on solid, dry land, but we still need to, so that we can translate the old ways into the new ways. We have to keep checking in with the world as it is, and the world as it seems to be, like the machine of the world. And also we have to keep running ahead and laying foundation for the new thing that we're becoming. And I think we've actually been doing this for a really long time. For me, it's just coming to the surface now. It's coming up and out of the shadowlands and into my broader consciousness, and I'm seeing it in myself and in a lot of the people around me. And it feels both like a really slow and really fast threshold crossing. Maybe it's a sense of being closer to the moment itself, actually. Maybe closer to presence, to the now moment, which is cool. And I believe that human consciousness always has the potential to be on the leading edge of creation. We're creating all the time, and maybe we're just becoming more aware of it. And this bridge collective, feels like a leading edge of creation. And it's beautiful and confusing and hard and seemingly inevitable, just kind of rolling along and happening. And just to be clear, it's not better or worse than any other collective on the planet. I am a believer in union with diversity. Like, all of us are big, weird, shiny stars twinkling our little particular asses off, and in our little particular ways, and then together we make up something that is as beautiful as the night sky. We're not a homogeneous grid. We're like a Jackson Pollock painting. So it's all about individuating into our weird shiny selves. And the Bridge Collective is like a constellation of us, twinkling our asses off together in resonance. Holy shit, I should call this episode How Many Metaphors Can I Mix? Okay. Finally, what's working for me to help with the confusion and multiplicity and edges of paralysis and overwhelm for a bridge person? And of course, completely ignore this if it's not in accordance with your own deep knowing. But it's about getting grounded. Grounding. Staying grounded. Being grounded. And I know, what the fuck does that even mean, right? Like, we've all heard it. We all know it. We all strive for it. And I think it means something different to each of us. But what it means to me here in this context is to be so deeply in the body that we feel what it's like to be alive. We develop capacity to feel the sensual reality of being alive in a body on this planet during this insanely complicated and heartbreaking and exciting time. And that means we need to feel our feelings. Feel the complicated, feel the heartbreak, feel the excitement, feel the joy and the grief and the confusion and the paralysis and all of it. Turn towards it. Feel the flutterings in our stomach and the pressure of our feet on the ground and the tightness in our throats and the contraction in our shoulders and the melting relief when we let it all go and remember to breathe. Feel the light and heavy and hot and cool. And not only that, but feel ourselves in the ecosystems of our environments too. What does the air on the skin feel like? Is it so sensually rapturous that we have to shut down because it feels unsafe? And it makes sense. It makes sense that feeling alive in the body is terrifying, because make no mistake about it, the body is the thing that will die. Maybe our consciousness survives, and I think it does, and maybe our flesh and bones will molder into the earth and continue on into infinity, connected to the cycle of the planet and all the other beings here, and I think they will. And that is death. And death is like grief. It's a non-negotiable no that we must come up against. So we go slow here. We feel a little at a time. Bit by bit, we titrate what it feels like to be alive in our animal bodies. We use the mental body to connect with the emotional body, and the emotional body to connect with the physical body. And we center the soma and discover a forgotten intelligence that is held there. We return to the body, which is the body of the earth, and we fall in love with it and trust it and discover that life flows through it, the body of us and the body of the earth, and that life flowing through it is life herself. And if we are wise, we bend a knee to her mystery. And one reason I believe this is that the beings at one point showed me this metaphor about not being able to cross into a new paradigm unless all of the bodies were closely aligned with each other. So the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body, the etheric body, the causal body, all the bodies had to be in some sort of concordance, some sort of resonance. And the resonance had to be close enough. They all had to be kind of vibrating in a similar frequency in order to cross into a new threshold. And so the body itself is the densest The physical body is the densest body. It takes the longest time. It includes our nervous system. It includes, our animal sense of fight or flight or freeze. And so we must, with great love and care, bring the body along very slowly. And it really feels to me like that's what needs to be centered right now, which is what grounding is to me. Coming back to the animal body, making it alive again, helping it feel alive again. And I'm sure you're thinking, yep, Robin, that sounds great. How the fuck do we do that? And I know it's a really good question. My experience is that returning to the felt sensation of the sensual body is extremely tender and edgy, as I said, and so we go slow. Maybe find a somatics coach, like that's something that really helped me cross this threshold and continue to cross it. I go back and forth. I'm not fully across it yet. But finding a somatics coach, especially if you have a history of big T or little t trauma, and honestly, who doesn't, that can be helpful. Or maybe we lean against a tree. Maybe we put our feet on the ground, like the earth, the soil, not a vinyl floor, but the actual ground, a few times a day. Maybe we learn how to co-regulate with a really safe and trusted friend. Maybe we take a moment to center the mind into the body and feel the air on our skin. Or maybe if we're feeling really fucking brave, we find another safe human and let their fingertips brush against us. A little at a time, we let life back in, and as the body comes back to life, we find that we can hold more of the multidimensional self. The rational mind grounds along with the physical body, and suddenly we have more space, more vitality to do this big, important bridge project that we're all working on. So I'm going to record a little exercise that I learned during my own somatic certification training that I did through the Embody Lab with Dr. Scott Lyons and lots of other amazing practitioners. And I'm going to post it on Patreon. It's pretty safe, and the goal is to help us get resourced, so it's a really supportive and nourishing practice. But with any somatics work, big feelings can come up, and because I'm a practitioner, I feel like I can hold the smaller container of Patreon more easily than I can hold a big podcast audience. It just feels safer for my nervous system that way. But if you don't want to join Patreon and do want to receive the exercise, just message me. I'll send it to you. I love this exercise. I use it all the time for myself and my clients. And I particularly love it because it connects our bodies with the body of the earth and reminds us that she's always there for us. So in general, other than particular somatics practices, I invite you to find ways to deeply support the physical body during the heightened, hard, confusing, beautiful, weird, wild time on the planet that we're in while you're building bridges to an unknown shore. It's hard work, and self-care, if that's what we want to call it, is no longer optional. The basic, unsexy things like drinking enough water and getting enough exercise and putting our bodies in nature and resting in stillness and quiet instead of constantly taking in something streaming through a device into our eye holes are strategies that will go a hell of a long way. Also, again, co-regulating with another safe human. So I love you, honey hearts. I'm going on an adventure to New York on a train. Can you believe it? I am leaving the Shire and going to the big city, the big city. Holy shit. Wish me luck. I'll try to get the next episode ready to go before I leave. It's a really good one. It's with dream researcher and experiencer Daniel Rekshon. He wrote a book called Missing Time Found, and he's really kind of fun and wild, and his ideas are so out there in the best way. They made perfect sense to me. I loved our conversation, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. So finally, thank you to Morgan Jenks for our beautiful soundscapes, and thanks to each of you. I have to say, the people who reach out to me to share their stories and reflections are so precious to me. I love to know that you're out there. I love your ideas and your brilliance. And I'm also incredibly grateful to those of you who've left reviews on Apple Podcasts or Amazon on my book. It just means the world to me. Makes me feel like I'm not talking to myself into a microphone in my dome. It's nice. It feels connecting. So thank you. So if you'd like to reach out to me to share your story or to book a one-on-one session or to buy my book, which is out now in paperback and on Kindle, please visit honeyheart.org.